Good enough time to go ahead and get started. We have several attendees here and we will record our session today for those who couldn't make it. But for those who did make it, we're so happy to have you here. So thank you for spending a little bit of your evening with us. Good place to start is with introductions. My name is Joanne Legler and I am the Director of Admissions for the Executive MBA program at the Yale School of Management. And I'm thrilled to be joined on the back end by one of my colleagues, David Daniel, who's going to ensure that our webinar tonight runs smoothly. And I'll let Valerie introduce herself as well. And thank you for joining us.
Hi, everyone. My name is Valerie Cardona, and I'm the Assistant Director of Financial Aid here at SOM. And today I'm just going to go over some of the financing options that you have at your disposal. So we will get into that a little later on in the presentation.
Indeed. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that you can see our presentation. I probably should have done that before we got started, but as we live in the world of doing everything now electronically, here we are. Valerie, you're able to see what I got going on here?
All good on my end.
All right, great. Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining us tonight. We're really pleased to see so many of you here. Valerie, thank you for joining me. Welcome. As you can see, this is a picture of Evans Hall, where we used to work. These days, we're not there so much, but we're really thrilled to be able to invite you to our webinar tonight. Hopefully, we'll get to meet you in person one of these days in Evans Hall. And tonight, the goal of the session is to give you a really brief introduction to the MBA for Executives program at Yale SOM. I'm guessing quite a few of you who are on the webinar tonight have already attended one of our information sessions, or perhaps we were lucky enough to meet you before we stopped being able to meet in person, or maybe you've come to one of our virtual class observation sessions. Wherever you find yourself in this process, we're really glad to have you here tonight. But this is not going to be a full information session for the MBA for Executives program, so I absolutely suggest you go back, watch some of our previously recorded webinars, or maybe some of our student or alumni panels, but we'll keep it a little bit brief here so that we can spend as much time as possible talking about financing your MBA. But I always like to start almost every presentation that I do with a reminder of our mission. Our mission at Yale SOM is to educate leaders for business and society. This is our founding mission. It drives everything we do, both on a day-to-day basis for students, faculty, and staff, as well as our students. You could definitely say we are mission-driven at Yale SOM. The mission absolutely matters. We are looking to educate leaders who think broadly about the difficult business problems that we have. We acknowledge that a lot of problems in society can't be solved without business, and a lot of the business problems that we have can't be solved without bringing in an inclusive group of leaders who can think about these problems, like I said, from the broadest perspective possible. So if this resonates with you, then I think it's safe to say that SOM is a place for you. Getting right down to the nitty-gritty of what our program is about, this is a 22-month MBA program for working professionals. We start each program in July. You go through the first year, we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, and finish the second year with graduation in May. The time on campus is every other weekend for 22 months, plus 4 weeks in residence. We start our program with orientation in residence 2 weeks in July to kick off the program. At the end of the first year, hopefully by June of 2022, you'll be able to join a global network week at one of our partner schools somewhere internationally. And then you'll return to campus in July of your second year to do a 1-week residency. So 4 weeks in residency, every other weekend, all day Friday, all day Saturday, with occasional Thursday night for 22 months. To put it a slightly different way, this is what would be a pretty typical sample class weekend. You're going to join us first thing in the morning on Friday for class, lunch, and then an area of focused-based colloquium speaker that's curated by our faculty directors. You'll come back in the afternoon for another class, and then on some Fridays, join us for a fun activity introducing the Yale community to you, making you feel hopefully like you're very much part of the Yale University campus. Usually bright and early on Saturday, we start classes at 8 a.m. In our COVID world, we have pushed that back to 9 a.m. so that our remote participants in places other than the East Coast can participate not quite so early in the morning. So class starts these days at 9 a.m., lunch break, back to class at 1 p.m. And then on occasional Saturdays, we offer a workshop, for instance, executive voice and presence with one of our faculty members at Yale SOM. And that's kind of the supplemental learning that we offer as part of the program. So it's a full weekend, like I said, all day Friday, all day Saturday. As far as our curriculum goes, as you can see, we think about this as a 2-year program. We start the first year with an integrated core curriculum. This is the same core curriculum that our full-time MBA students take. You'll finish up the first year with Global Network Week. You'll dive into area of focus classes in the second year and finish off your learning with what we call advanced management classes. Throughout the 2 years, you're working on your leadership development through a series of classes, courses, workshops, lots of feedback sessions, and you'll have access to colloquium speakers, again, curated by your area of focus faculty member. Those are required, gives you an opportunity to mix and mingle with the first year and the second year who are in your same area of focus. Like I said, we round out the second year with advanced management classes. As you can already see, this is a pretty well curated set of classes, I should say, or a program with very little opportunity for electives. This is the exception. So you will have an opportunity to choose one of 2 courses in what we call our advanced management section of the curriculum. On top of those, you'll also all take part in these 5 classes, the top one, business ethics, and then the 4 on the bottom as well. These are curated from some of the most popular classes that are available as electives to full-time MBA students, and we think really round out your time with us at Yale SOM. In addition, as I mentioned, Global Network Week is a cool opportunity to go with other EMBA students, not only from Yale, but from our partner schools around the world. The Global Network for Advanced Management is a consortium of 32 schools globally who have come together to share resources, share faculty ideas, share research, and share opportunities for students to connect with one another. Typically during Global Network Week, there are a dozen to maybe 15 choices for you to go and spend a week with a group of students in other EMBA programs. It's sort of a mini course for the week with, of course, plenty of opportunity for travel and cultural immersion as well. Pretty unique to the Yale SOM program. Okay, I did promise to go over quickly our areas of focus. So as you may know, one of the more unique aspects of the Yale SOM EMBA curriculum is the opportunity to not only take part in our integrated core curriculum, but then to dive deep into an area of study at the nexus of business and society. And our 3 areas of focus are healthcare, asset management, and sustainability. So starting alphabetically with asset management, this is an opportunity for students to dive deep who have a strong experience and background in finance or financial services. These are folks who are thinking very broadly about how they can sort of make the world a better place through their experience in finance, thinking really, really deeply about areas of financial ethics, how to produce wealth management for clients in an ethical way, how to protect investments and retirement funds. And so there is a requirement for students to be steeped in the language of finance and financial services and use the asset management area of focus to go deeper, to expand not only their leadership capability, but their knowledge as well. Our faculty director is Professor Will Getzman. He's up here at the top left and also teaches the class Investing in Alternative Asset Classes. And while these classes may change a little bit from year to year, hopefully when you see these 6 classes, you get pretty excited about the opportunity to dig deeper and become an even better leader in the financial services industry. Secondly, healthcare. Our EMBA program actually started as a healthcare EMBA several years ago, and it's pretty cool. The father of this program, Dr. Howard Foreman, was noticing that his colleagues were being tapped for leadership opportunities, administrative type opportunities, without feeling confident about the skill sets to do so. So thus started the EMBA program at Yale SOM with a healthcare MBA, and I think there were 13 people in the very first class. In addition, we are lucky enough at Yale SOM as a school to host a robust student-led annual healthcare conference. This is just one session of that conference from a couple of years ago. This year we were able to do it virtually as well. So this brings together the best of folks from around the region, leaders in the School of Medicine, the School of Public Health, Nursing, and the School of Management. As I mentioned, this area of focus is headed up by Dr. Howard Foreman. If you are somebody who's on Twitter, please check him out. I think he's at The Real Howie, and he's quite prolific, and he's very involved in policy at the highest levels of leadership and government here in the United States. He teaches the healthcare policy, finance, and economics class, And I'm pleased to tell you that our next class down, Population Health and Health Equity, is taught by Dr. Marcela Nunez-Smith, who's recently been tapped to co-chair the COVID task force by President-elect Biden, along with one of our other alums, Dr. Vivek Murthy, who's the class of 03, MD, MBA, and former Surgeon General. So in the healthcare space, we feel like we've got a lot of great opportunity to introduce you to some of the top leaders in the field, knowing that the US health system is in quite a crisis at this moment, pandemic or not, but we really are bringing together the best of folks who hope to maintain their leadership positions and provide quality healthcare for all of our citizens. And then finally, sustainability. This one is the one that's probably most industry agnostic. By the way, this is a great photo of Kroon Hall, which is just across the street from Evans Hall and is the home of the Yale School of the Environment. And of course, the sustainability track relies heavily on our relationship with the School of the Environment. Our faculty director for this area of focus is Dr. Todd Court, who oversees the Center for Business and the Environment at the School of the Environment and Yale SOM. That's a research center that brings together the best of what both schools have to offer. Sustainability, as I said, is a little bit industry diverse. And so we've got folks in retail and oil and gas and digital marketing. And so this is a really interesting space where people are coming together from across industries to solve some of our world's biggest environmental operations and sustainability focused problems. So you may not be the chief sustainability officer, you maybe don't have sustainability in your title, but folks here I think are attracted to the sustainability area of focus when they've been charged with having to think really broadly about how they can keep their organization sustainable, meaning alive from one year to another, as the world changes so frequently, how they can best use the tools at our disposal now, how we can use disruption and innovation. But everybody here sort of shares that idea that we also have to be good citizens of our planet. So the climate change class is usually pretty exciting for those folks as well. You do have to choose an area of focus if you're planning to apply to our program. So you may want to start thinking about that a little bit now. We have much more information about the areas of focus in our other presentations in our previously recorded events section of our website. A lot of what we talk about at Yale SOM and what makes us special is our community. And so while this is a really interesting photograph, sometimes it actually is a little creepy to me. I think it's a really great way to show the strength of our community in person. So of course, this class entered the program while we were in the throes of our pandemic. And they did still come to class. We still made it possible for them to come to class in person. So as you can see here, they're properly socially distanced. They're wearing their masks. And it's been a pleasure to see our students in person and be able to offer that opportunity for those who were able to travel to campus. When I think about our students and I think about our community, I think about them as being engaged, inspiring, really connected. This is a very non-transactional type of program. And so if you're excited to connect and network with a community of forward-thinking leaders for tomorrow, then absolutely Yale SOM is the place for you. Putting a finer point on it, the class of 2022 entered in July, behind plexiglass with masks on and with plenty of hand sanitizer. And so this has been our setup for a couple of months now when we've been able to be on campus, and we have students participating remotely as well. The class of 2022 came in on target with a class size of 77. On average, usually it's about 75. 13 years of work experience, about a third of our students are women. Many of them have advanced degrees. 16 different citizenships are represented in the class, and on average, our students are 36 years of age. Our admissions process is pretty straightforward. We're also pretty transparent about how we talk about the admissions process. We've just gone on the other side of our round 1 application process, but regardless of the round you apply to, this is how it works. You will submit an application by the deadline. The committee will meet to determine who will move to the next step, which is an interview day. Unfortunately, not everybody will move forward, and you do have to be invited to interview. The admissions committee will then meet again with feedback from the interview day before rendering a final admissions decision, which would be to be admitted to the program, denied admission for the program, or perhaps waitlisted and reconsidered in the following round. Again, the application components are pretty straightforward. We have made sure that our application is as streamlined and user-friendly as possible. So I encourage you, even if you're just curious, to open up an application and check it out. Start putting together these elements of the application. One thing I will point out tends to be a little time consuming is the requirement for a standardized test, either the GMAT, GRE, or executive assessment, or EA, which is the one we see the most often these days. If you don't know anything about it, it is made specifically to test the population of students who are considering MBA programs, and it's made by the same folks who make the GMAT. It's about half as long, requires about a third as much prep time as it might for the GMAT or for the GRE, so certainly encourage you to check that out. Every student does need this. We don't waive this, and it would be great for you to start checking it out now if you are considering a round 2 application to our program. As you can see, our application deadlines are here, along with potential interview dates and decision dates. These are subject to change, but they really don't. The deadlines are firm. So we look forward to those of you that are on the call today, potentially creating an application for round 2, if you're not already an applicant for round 1. I'm going to turn it over to Valerie for a couple slides. I'll take it back for a couple slides, and then Valerie's going to round this out to talk about how to finance your MBA. So Valerie, why don't you go ahead and start with this slide?
Great, and thank you so much, Joanne. So I think at this point, we are all inspired to go ahead and pursue our executive MBA. But the financial aid piece is obviously a large piece of the preparation process. And so pursuing an executive MBA, we understand as the financial aid office that it's a significant investment in both your time and in your money. And so first off, at the get-go, we want to let you know that we're here as a resource for you to help guide you through the financing process and to help you understand what your options are. So the all-inclusive cost for 22 months for the class of 2023 is $198,500. Now in the financial aid world, we split that up into 2 academic years. So each academic year is $198,500 divided by 2. And this is, again, your all-in cost. So this includes your Friday evening accommodations during class weekends. This includes meals during class meeting periods, as well as global network week participation that Joanne had mentioned before, and all of your required study materials and textbooks. All right, and we can go on to the next slide. Great. So how the financial aid office works for you. So what do we do? Now, as I mentioned before, we are here to help you understand what your options are, what your financing options are. And it is comprised, the financial aid office, of myself and Rebecca Melville, who is the managing director of financial aid. So generally what we do is we help you figure out how to afford your MBA. And typically that's done through either loan sources, which are funds that you are required to pay back, or scholarship funding, which is free money that you are not required to pay back. But our relationship doesn't end just there. We are also committed to helping you as alumni post-graduation in understanding loan repayment options, because there are many loan repayment options available to graduate students, especially students pursuing an executive MBA, and also loan refinancing options. There's a robust market out there. Beyond that, we'll also help administer the loan forgiveness program. And so we'll definitely go over the parameters of the loan forgiveness program within the next few slides. But if you do qualify for the loan forgiveness program, you may have a relationship with our office for up to 13 years since the program runs 10 years post-graduation. And with that, I'll hand it over to Joanne for scholarships.
They would be lucky to have this relationship with you for so long, Valerie, you and Rebecca. Yeah, that's an office of 2. And really, considering we have 900 students in any of our MBA, MBA one-year master's programs at one time, it's remarkable how much the office is able to do for our students. I'm going to take it back for a couple of minutes to talk about scholarships. Scholarships are actually offered by the Office of Admissions, not the Office of Financial Aid. And generally speaking, we have limited partial scholarships available for students who are considering the MBA program. We take 2 pieces of consideration into our consideration when we're thinking about scholarships. So if you're thinking about applying for a scholarship, all you'll have to do in the application process is check off the box that says, yes, please consider me. Write a short paragraph about your unique contribution to our potential community, and then we'll ask for 2 more pieces of information, that essay and then the FAFSA form. So you'll fill out that paragraph for us in the application process, and then fill out the FAFSA form at any time that's convenient for you. Our scholarships are what we would call both merit and need based. And so we're certainly looking for your unique contribution. We're thinking about things like academic readiness for the program, career success to date. But we also want to be sensitive to the fact that some folks have been lucky enough to have the resources to be able to fund their own EMBAs on their own, while others may be really thinking about what it means to make this investment in themselves. There are family considerations. Folks have children, elderly parents. You're in that in-between generation where financial consideration may be an enormous piece of your decision to pursue an EMBA. So that's sort of how it works. The FAFSA can be done, like I said, at any time. If you think you haven't done a FAFSA for a long time and you can't remember much about it, I'm here to tell you as part of your generation that it has changed significantly since the paper and pencil days. Everything's online. The opportunity to process the FAFSA does go by quicker, but I'd encourage you to do it in a couple of weeks ahead of an application deadline. We will move quickly with scholarship decisions as we do with admissions decisions. We'll need to have all the information possible before we're able to finalize a scholarship decision. And you're welcome to stay in touch with our office for any questions on scholarships. It is worth pointing out, though, that though limited to only 3 students every year, we have been the lucky recipients of an enormously impactful fellowship with a partnership through the Commonwealth Fund. So this is the Posen Commonwealth Fund Fellowship in Health Equity Leadership, specifically for healthcare practitioners who are committed to improving health equity and health access for vulnerable populations, including minority populations, socioeconomically disadvantaged populations, rural populations. So this, like I said, only goes out to 3 people a year. You can apply for the fellowship as you are applying for admission to the program. I mentioned Dr. Marcela Nunez-Smith a while back, talking about being on the new COVID task force. She is the faculty director for this special fellowship. There's some great information on our website about the fellowship. I'm also happy to answer questions, but any questions about the fellowship can start with the Office of Admissions. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Valerie to continue the conversation about financing.
All right, and so here we really just took a snippet of our website. We are proud to have built an external scholarship database, and it's available using the link at the very bottom. It's on the funding resources page for the EMBA site as well, so you can access it. And what it does is it gives you the option to filter down based by career interest, based by population, by region, and it'll whittle it down to different outside scholarship sources that are the most applicable to you. And so we certainly recommend looking into different external sources as it's definitely a viable way to help bridge those educational expenses that may pop up. And we have many students that do take advantage of it. So we just wanted to take the time to highlight that piece. All right, and here we wanted to include just a few search engines that we're aware of, particularly for international folks in the room. We wanted to let you know about the IEFA search database, as well as the Education USA. Those are particularly helpful for international students. The rest, to be perfectly transparent, are more helpful towards domestic students. But it's also, aside from the database on our site, these are also just some resources to look at any external sources that maybe aren't included on our site. All right, so filling in the funding gaps with loans. So for some of you, you will fill in whatever gaps that you may have in your funding situation annually by using loans. And when I talk about financial aid being annual based, this is really what I'm talking about. So the FAFSA application that Joanne mentioned that you will fill out has to be filled out twice. So once for each academic year. In order to qualify for federal loan funding, it's something that you are required to complete. And our office, we will send reminders to students, as we know that you are very busy when it's time to apply for your second year. But the FAFSA application is available to complete now in October time, and that will look at 2019 tax information. This will differ from what you may have been asked to complete in your undergrad while completing a FAFSA, as you will not include any of your parental information on there. This should include only your immediate family, which would be your spouse and any dependents if applicable. All right, so this next slide is a very important slide in terms of understanding how financial aid works. So the cost of attendance piece at the very top references the 198,500 figure for 2 years. So if we divide that in half for your first year, that would be 99,250. In this particular scenario, this student was very generously awarded a $20,000 scholarship from the EMBA admissions team. So that would be $10,000 per year, which is also reflected there. The EFC in financial aid, we love our acronyms. It stands for the Estimated Family Contribution. So that number, that contribution is derived from the information that you put on your FAFSA. And in this example, we got a very neat number of $30,000. It's usually not so neat. But when you do the math there, at the very bottom, you get what is called your demonstrated need. And that is the recommended borrowing amount, the gap that you may consider funding through a variety of different loan sources. All right. So in this slide, and again, just tabling our international students for just one moment, we will get into international loans in just a bit. There are 3 different types of educational loans that domestic students can apply for. So the first being the federal direct loan, and that loan is for $20,500 for the academic year. Now, students are eligible, US citizens and eligible permanent residents are automatically eligible for this funding upon completing the FAFSA. So in terms of all the loans out there, it's considered the most attractive in the market because it has no credit component attached to it. And it's at a very low interest rate. This year, it's been the lowest that I think it's been for 8 years. So it's at 4.3%, and that is fixed throughout the lifetime of the loan. Federal loans also have a 6-month grace period. Most United States loans, educational loans have a 6-month grace period where you're not required to make any payments on your loan until 6 months after you graduate. So the first $20,500 is typically used through this federal direct loan program. Where we see the decision-making process really take place is between the Direct Plus loan, which is another federal loan, versus private student loans. Now, EMBA students, you may be eligible for more attractive interest rates than perhaps other students in other programs, as most EMBA students are more seasoned, you have better credit scores, and so you'd be an attractive candidate for the private loan market. With the federal direct plus loan, it's always fixed 1 percentage point higher than the federal direct loan. So currently that's at a 5.3% fixed interest rate. But all interest rates for federal loans are reset on June 1st by Congress. So it has the same repayment schedule. Just something to note is that if you go federal, students that we see that go federal tend to want the more flexible repayment periods, more flexible deferment, whereas students who go private are really looking for those extra savings that they're getting by qualifying for a lower interest rate. All right. So in general, this is the process for applying for financial aid. So the EMBA admissions office will ask for your FAFSA results. International students, again, slightly different process as you're not eligible to complete the FAFSA application. As part of submitting your FAFSA, you will submit it to Yale University, and we've listed our school code there, 001426. If you are interested in institutional need and merit-based aid, then you will have a round-specific deadline that will be communicated to you during the admissions process. And you'll be required to submit a paragraph stating why you have a compelling reason for scholarship funding. Now, if you are eligible for scholarship funding, you'll be notified by the EMBA admissions team. In terms of deadlines where you receive communication from our office, in April time, we will send you your FAFSA results, and that will include scholarship information if you're eligible for any scholarships. And then around June time, we hope that you already know what types of loans you will have taken out, through which sources you will have taken them out. And again, I mean, through this entire process, we are here to guide you. So you can always contact us if you're kind of torn between which loans to take out. All right, and so this is just an example of what that FAFSA results email looks like. So at the very top, you'll see that we list the cost of attendance, any aid that you might have, any scholarships, external scholarships will be listed there as estimated financial aid. We'll have action items for you. So if you are taking federal loans, there will be next steps that you're required to complete. And everything is online. So we'll include all hyperlinks and all necessary information for you to get all of your loans finalized. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop. So the first step, I would say, is really completing that FAFSA, and that's how our office knows to communicate your options to you. Great. So finally, so in terms of loans for international students, so there's currently one no cosigner loan option, and that is through Quorum Federal Credit Union. And so through them, you can apply for up to 80% of the cost of attendance. So if we take the full $198,500, 80% of that is round about $160,000, which is a line of credit that you can draw down from throughout your 2 years in the EMBA program. And so as a part of the visa process, you know, if you are using loan funding in order to get your student visa, then this is certainly an option to consider.
Valerie, I was just going to pop in here to say that our EMBA students, generally speaking, are not sponsored for a visa by Yale University. Most of our students are using a work visa to be here in the US. Most of our students are coming from the US because this is an every other weekend in-person program. So we don't see too many international students, but those we do are either here in the US on a work visa, or perhaps our friends within North America from Canada or Mexico. And there are various options for studying in the US that are way more complicated than I intend to get into right now. But I just want to point that out, that most of our EMBA international students aren't going through the visa paperwork process anyway. So just
thank you for clarifying.
Yes.
Okay, great. So this slide, we're going to chat just a little bit about how the cashier's office gets involved in the billing process. So your bill will reflect the inclusive tuition cost that's listed on the left. If you're opting into textbooks, if you're opting out of textbooks, if you're requesting an additional night at the Omni, if you're there on campus on a Thursday, that will also be reflected on the bill. Any discounts that you have, such as scholarship funding, such as loan funding that you've already applied for, will be also accounted for on your bill, as well as your tuition deposit. Now, one thing to note, your tuition deposit gets applied towards your first bill. That would be the fall bill. And that's why you see the discrepancy between the fall amount versus the spring. The fall will be a little cheaper than the spring. Although it's a little wonky, you'll receive your spring bill in November while you're still in classes for the fall. It's just how billing works at Central Yale, and it has a December 1st due date. So just something to keep in mind. All right, and this is just an example of what the bill looks like. So Accounting 101, you'll see all of the charges listed on the left. It will be itemized, and any credits such as scholarships, such as loans, anything that is going to be deducted from your balance will be listed on the right. And at the very top right-hand corner, we will itemize the amount due and the bill due date. So just to give you a sense for what may come down the pipeline. And as we've mentioned before, we are committed to helping you while you're here and when you graduate. So we manage and constantly update a post-graduation loan options page. There is a robust refinance loan market out there for students. We have students who qualify for excellent refinance rates after they graduate. And as we learn of more opportunities, we constantly update our page. And so after you graduate, you'll also have access to an alumni portal where we will also keep you up to date on any changes to repayment, any attractive changes to policy that you should be aware of. So our relationship just doesn't end after graduation. If there's anything that we want to make sure to drill into your head is that we are here as a support to you, and we are here to answer any questions that you have throughout your time at SOM and beyond. Now, our loan forgiveness program is something that we are particularly proud of. We are the first business school in the United States to offer the loan forgiveness program. It started in 1986, and it's modeled after the Yale Law School's loan forgiveness program. To date, we have spent somewhere around the tune of $11 million, and just last year we spent $1 million in loan forgiveness funding. And so it's definitely a program that we're very excited and proud of. And in the next slide, we can go over just a few of the parameters for eligibility. So in order to qualify for loan forgiveness, you have to work in some type of nonprofit or government work, something for public service. And not just in the US, whatever the equivalent abroad is something that also would be taken into consideration. There are income levels of support, depending on how much you make, could impact the amount of eligibility that you're eligible for. But we also take things into consideration, such as if you have dependents. It's quite a holistic process, but we do our best to make sure that we're calculating the right amount for you. Now, it's only eligible for need-based loans that were taken at SOM that were used for tuition and program fees. And you're eligible, if you are eligible for support, that support will extend for 10 years post-graduation, and that's 10 consecutive years. So just to give you a little taste of what the loan forgiveness program is, and I think that might be the last slide, but just so you know, we know that this is a lot of information. We have one more program that we also want to boast about just a little bit. But again, if I am going too fast, please do feel free to email us, and we'll include our email in the last slide as well. So for the Entrepreneurship Fellowship program, it's a really great program that allows students 2 years post-graduation to sit at Yale using Yale resources to really develop and hone in on their ideas, which is, I think, at the heart of what entrepreneurship is. And what we do at the financial aid office is we will pay the interest that's accruing on your loans during that 2-year period so that you can develop your ideas without the burden of loan interest. So it's also, a really great program that we're excited about for the entrepreneurs in the room. Definitely look into it. And yes, as I mentioned, as Joanne mentioned, we are a 2-person office. So it's myself and my wonderful boss, Rebecca Melville. She's the managing director. If you email us in, we will get back to you within 2 days, as long as there's no, busy time at the office. But it's usually just 2 days. And we're happy to help with anything that's on your mind. And with that, I will take it back to Joanne.
Thank you so much, Valerie. Every time I go through this presentation with you and Rebecca, I feel like I learn more and more. It's also worth pointing out, Valerie, that in addition to wishing any of our veterans a happy Veterans Day,
yes,
today, yesterday, Rebecca was on a great webinar about the veteran experience here at Yale SOM, and talked specifically about financing both the full-time MBA and the MBA for any veterans that are in the audience. So we'll have that on our website as soon as we have kind of the recording and the copy of that. So we did not exclude our veterans from this presentation. That's going to supplement this presentation, and we'll make that available to you, or you can contact us at any time, and we'll make sure that we get you a copy of that. So Valerie, we've got some great questions in the Q&A, so I want to thank our participants for being so proactive in asking questions, and I'm going to lob the first couple at you because they're specific to things like loans. So one question here I would never know the answer to: can federal loans be refinanced through using private loans?
Yes, and we do have students that have their federal loans refinanced. But one thing to keep in mind is that if you refinance your federal loans, you would then lose out on federal protections, which is really why students opt into the federal loan program. So just so you know, some of the benefits of the federal loan program are that in situations of unemployment, loan payments are automatically deferred for up to 36 months. Right now, due to COVID, all federal loans have had their interest paused since March and will continue to be paused until December 31st, and students aren't required to make payments. So there are a lot of protections within the program that students find attractive, but we do see students who refinance and then qualify for rates like 2.25 or 2.75. So again, that matter that we chatted about before, flexibility over savings.
Great, thank you. I have a great question here from Catherine asking, how can somebody confirm that the FAFSA has been filled out correctly and that Yale has received everything that both the admissions and financial aid office, and this is where we actually do partner a little bit, needs to make those scholarship decisions? Is there a way for them to check? And certainly we know we can check with you and you can check with Yale, but is there a way for a student to check?
Yes, so 3 to 5 days after you complete the FAFSA application, the federal government will send you something known as a Student Aid Report, SAR, another acronym, and it will detail all of the information that you included on the FAFSA, including the schools that it was sent to. So just double check that on that report, it says that it was sent to Yale University, school code 001426, and you're all set.
Thanks so much. I'll take the next couple of questions on scholarships. Somebody asked how many students, what is the average amount of scholarships that students get, and I'll kind of harken back to reminding the audience that we do have a limited scholarship budget. In the EMBA world, as Valerie mentioned, there is some sort of expectation or assumption at least that your credit is better, that you may have reached a level of leadership where your compensation might be better. Many EMBA programs don't offer scholarships, and we're really fortunate to have the resources to be able to do so. All that said, you can see where I'm going with this is that the number of students who are offered a scholarship tends to be pretty limited, and the awards themselves also tend to be fairly limited. It can be anything as small as $10,000, and again, when you're thinking about the bill being $198,000, that does feel like a drop in the bucket, all the way up to maybe a larger award of the $20,000 or $25,000 size. I think that's probably about as big as it gets. Of course, that probably changes from year to year. Tuition also increases from year to year, and so the discount on that tuition from year to year. Our scholarship budget also kind of flexes and changes with that increase. So, but yeah, we're also happy to talk about that specifically once you are awarded a scholarship, or if you're not, and that conversation starts with the admissions office. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Valerie, because I don't know the answer to this one. Could impact-focused private sector work qualify somehow for the loan forgiveness program?
It depends. So thankfully, everything in financial aid is always black and white. So if it's listed as a 501c3 or a B corporation, and it has the IRS documentation to support that, then it would be considered a place of eligible employment. You just have to make sure that it has those qualifications.
Great. A little bit along those lines, I hope this question makes sense as I'm interpreting it, but what's the salary max for government employees that would prevent a loan forgiveness? I think this information is on the website in terms of mins and maxes, and it changes, I think, a little bit. Is there an easy answer to that, or is the answer it depends and it's on the website?
Yes, so for students who are graduating past 2021, the current income caps are, if you make anywhere between $85,300 to $137,000, that's the parameters that we're really looking for in terms of loan forgiveness. And so once asking your information, your income information, your eligibility amount would prorate depending on where you fall within that income range.
Great. I'm going to take it back for a couple of other questions, not about scholarships or loans, but employer funding, which in the EMBA program, probably back in the day, and even in the full-time MBA program, I think we saw pretty frequently. I'd say after 2009, having been in business this long, that definitely changed. And so the question is, do people ever seek funding from their employer? And the answer is yes. Does it happen an awful lot? No. It can be secured at any time. Sometimes that's part of the conversation you're going to have with your employer about the opportunity to even do the EMBA in addition to being sponsored for time away from the office. This is a great time to also have the conversation about any potential opportunities to be sponsored by the employer financially. We don't see it very often, and we don't ask the question in the admissions process. So really, I don't know exactly how many students are getting any kind of sponsorship from their employer, but I would suggest that the conversation begin as soon as possible and tie it into the employer approval process, which is required for interviewees. Somebody from your office is going to need to sign off on the idea that you will be out of the office quite a bit for the next 22 months. And so it might be a great time to start. There are also a lot of employers who offer some tuition reimbursement. It really doesn't have anything to do with sponsorship or scholarship, but for all employees as a benefit, just as dental or health would be, there are some opportunities. It may be as much as $10,000 a year for tuition reimbursement. And of course, the argument you'll want to make to your employer is, look at all the great stuff I'm going to be bringing back every week from my discussions with my classmates and my faculty members. You will be incredibly valuable. There is a question here from Renee about the Forte Fellowship, whether or not it's eligible for EMBA students. And unfortunately, the answer is no. It's a little bit of a complicated scenario in that Forte doesn't actually sponsor the monetary part of the fellowship. That comes from the school. So we do offer merit-based scholarships for the full-time MBA program. That's a Forte Fellowship potentially. But the reason the Forte Fellowship doesn't exist really for the EMBA program is the benefits on the Forte side are really geared toward a full-time population in terms of careers, networking, and exposure to companies. Our EMBA students aren't really job searching in that same way. And so what we found in our research about whether or not to offer this to EMBA candidates is that the benefits just really aren't quite there at this time. From the Forte side of things. The focus over the last 10, 12 years of the fellowship program for Forte has really been on career. And those are full-time students looking for full-time jobs once they graduate. So that makes a lot of sense. Doesn't mean you're not eligible for a merit-based scholarship. It just means that we don't support it in the way that Forte then would have your name to be able to pass on to employers, with the assumption that A, you might not be looking for a job in the same way that full-time students are, and B, we have our own great career resources to help you through any career development oriented needs you might have. I'm going to take one more question that I found in the chat just now about whether or not folks might be eligible for scholarships based on having a higher salary. And the answer is it depends. We'll take everything into account, and it's why it's so important for you to fill out the FAFSA. Not only will it take your salary into account, but then we'll get information from the FAFSA about what your debts might be. So if you are somebody who has graduate school debts, Valerie mentioned dependents or family members, all of this comes into account when we're making admissions decisions. So there's nothing that disqualifies anybody from being considered for a merit-based scholarship, but we will take that need piece into account to determine how we can best use those funds to bridge the gap between what the government is saying your estimated family contribution is and what the cost of attendance is. Somebody said thank you. So I think that's a great place to end, is to say thank you to you, Valerie, for being with us tonight. Thanks to David, who's been on the back end helping us out. I actually think we might have one more quick question before we go. And somebody's asking if the EMBA is full-time, and the answer is no. The EMBA is for working professionals. So you're working full-time, coming to school every other weekend. I hope that helped answer that last question. Valerie, thanks again. It's great to see you and have you part of our process as students in the MBA for executives here at Yale SOM. I'll thank David, who helped us to run this so smoothly on the back end. Many of you, we hope to see you again at some of our upcoming information sessions, hopefully one of these days on campus, but for now, we'll say good night and thank you so much for joining us. And thank you.
Good night, all.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.